cream. Thank you. Big Gay ice cream is the best.
On the Buff Show here, Matt Buff and Christopher Hart on the American Adversaries Radio Network. We're going to tell you to wash your hands, right? Don't sneeze on people. And like you seen with Mike Bloomberg, don't lick your fingers and go to a buffet. We're talking coronavirus. And
just don't do that anyway, right?
Yeah, you shouldn't do that anyway. It's weird and it's disgusting. And don't double dip your chips, right? Don't do that stuff. For crying out loud, I tell you what. And please do not stop buying Corona beer. The beer has nothing to do with the virus. Coronavirus is an umbrella of viruses. It's actually called COVID-19. But, Chris, this seems to be a problem in some countries, but it's really Armageddon in the media in the United States.
Well, certainly, with the media, they are in the business of hyping things up.
Oh, yeah.
And whipping things into a frenzy. Unfortunately, in this case, I believe with the media, it's more about Donald J. Trump than it is COVID-19, the so-called coronavirus. And the media has gone overboard trying to beat this administration down with this. There are insults not only to President Trump, but to also Vice President Pence. He's incapable. He was a lousy governor and all of this sort of thing. Rather than trying to rally around the issue, the problem, which is a disease. And a disease which needs our attention. And it needs our full focused attention on the disease, not the politics. But that's not the way politics works in the United States, and certainly not the way the media has focused on this.
You saw the headline a couple weeks ago in the New York Times that said, let's call it the Trump virus. I mean, that was shortly after the news started getting out about the coronavirus, and this originated in China, and let's call it the Trump virus. I mean, he can find a cure tomorrow, Chris. They're not gonna give him any credit for it.
Well, in fairness, that was an op-ed piece, but nonetheless, it's an example of what I've talked about.
Yes, indeed.
And it's carried over into the so-called news part of the New York Times and the other major media outlets. And once again, they're focusing on the political ramifications of this, not the health ramifications of this. And in doing so, they're doing us all a disservice.
They are. What should people be looking for out there? Because there are some cases in Seattle where they're trying to find the origins of it, and it's very difficult. And there might be people walking around with this, but it doesn't seem to have that dramatic effect on A, young people, and B, healthy people.
Okay, that's the good news. The bad news is it can have a very dramatic effect on you if you have a compromised immune system or recovering from other health complications.
That's right.
Or suffering with them. So it's nothing to be sneezed at, shall we say, pun intended. There you go. But nonetheless, the numbers aren't all in yet. It's going to be months before they know the severity of the infections, and also therefore the lethality of this. It's most likely, we've been speculating on the radio show, the American Adversaries Radio Show, that the numbers of people infected are going to be much larger than what we are seeing now, and it's because a lot of people who get this contract it actually recover fairly quickly from it. Some people don't even show symptoms, but they can be carriers of it. And so it's most likely, and we're seeing reports out of Washington State now where we've had the most deaths here in the United States, primarily in that nursing home, but that there are lots more people who have had the disease and didn't know it. And because of it's new, and there weren't a lot of test kits out there, and doctors didn't know how to, or people didn't even go to a doctor because the symptoms weren't severe enough.
Right.
That we're going to find out most likely that a lot more people have it and didn't know it. Take, for instance, Iran, where there's an extreme outbreak over Iran. And the question is it worse there, or are they simply testing better for it? And it may be a combination of both of those things.
I heard a report that out of the 12 million people in Iran and in Tehran, there's like 40% potential infections. Is that just lack of communication early, or what do you think that was when you have an outbreak?
I think it partly lack of knowledge early about it, but also an interesting geopolitical happening is perhaps contributed to this. China has been helping Iran in lieu of the sanctions that the United States and other nations have engaged in with Iran. So Iran has turned to China for more commerce, more interaction, in order to make up for the sanctions from the West. And perhaps with that came the disease, because it came from China, and their activity, their commerce with China has increased dramatically. Unfortunately, now they are reaping what they have sowed with the Chinese.
Well, I thought the president did a good thing of, closing off the borders, no more travel to certain places. I think that really helped us, because recent death toll was 11, and that's sad. But what we want as common sense people is death tolls to be low. We want sickness to be low, and we want people to be healthy. So like we said at the beginning, wash your hands and don't double dip chips and stuff.
I don't know that that'll have anything to do with COVID-19. But once again, your normal precautions: wash your hands, wash your face, use hand sanitizers. These are things you should be doing all the time to protect yourself from influenza, from the common cold, and other diseases that are communicable. And we live in a society where a lot of people contact a lot of other people who they have no knowledge of who they are, or where they come from, or how they comport themselves. So it's up to us to protect ourselves by simply staying clean, keeping clean hands, and don't transmit the disease. If you have it, stay home if you're sick.
Well, I'm not shaving the beard. I'll just keep it clean.
Yeah.
I heard a report about shaving the beard, so we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
All right. Stay safe out there. We'll see you next time.